Okay, recording now. This is the Prairie View Ranch Water District, April 14th, 7 o'clock, or it's actually 7:03, and we are calling this regular meeting to order. Roll call, Marcy McAnally.
Here.
Mia Hummaker.
Here.
Randy Moore.
Here.
Sam Belmonte is excused. He's teaching a class, and Jesse is here. So we do have a quorum. Let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda. It's real short. Review the 2025 budget resolution, which is for a budget hearing that we need to have on May 5th. And then I'll provide a quick status update on the audit situation. So the budget resolution is something that we have to do before election day in May. And we should have already done it like in December, but just wasn't going to happen. So basically what this document is that we have to look at, it's just copy and paste language from, that every district does every budget season. So our attorney wrote this for us. And basically it's saying that because we provide water and because we have to do a budget to pay for, a budget for the service that we provide, we have to hold a meeting on Monday, May 5th, 6:30. It's going to be online, just the same link that we're currently on. And it's to talk about the proposed budget. So the proposed budget is still being worked on by our attorney, but we have to tell the public ahead of time, give them a couple weeks saying, hey, numbers are coming in, we might have to raise rates, so that gives the public a chance to participate and provide feedback and review the budget ahead of time before we actually vote yes or no on it or whatever. And so that's the whole purpose of this resolution, is we just have to make it formal and document the fact that, yep, we're following this law that says we have to tell everybody, and here's how we're doing it. So notice is hereby given that the proposed budget for 2025 has been submitted to the district, and that's we're talking about the attorney submitting it to us. The budget will be considered at a public hearing and regular board meeting on Monday, May 5th. Meetings open to the public. Members may attend and participate in the meeting, may obtain information regarding attendance and participation at least 24 hours prior. A copy of the budget is available for public viewing at the offices of Wells Law Firm in Fort Morgan. Obviously, we will get a digital copy of this, put it on our website, email it out to everybody, but this is just statutory language that has to be in here, and it's got to be physically posted somewhere. So that's the closest thing we have to an office at this point. And that's all there is to it. So
we have to publish it in the Morgan County Times, right?
No, just on our website and somewhere physically. And the physical posting is in the closest thing we have to the district office, which is currently our lawyer's office.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, those are the two requirements for the law, is that it's got to be somewhere online, like on the district's website, and then also somewhere physically posted for those who may not have internet access. So this just satisfies both of those requirements.
Oh.
So this has to be a motion. So since Sam's not here, I'll make the motion to approve this resolution so that Sam can sign it, so that we can notify the public of the meeting on May 5th, where we're actually going to be publicly discussing the budget.
Okay. I'll second it.
All right, Marcy seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And aye. It's unanimous. That was easy. I'll get Sam to sign it, or get his permission to digitally sign it. And then the only other thing on our agenda is the status update for the state auditor situation. So again, we're victims of embezzlement. We know that something is wrong with all of our previous year's financial reports, and that those problems are going to make it pretty much impossible for us to work with an accountant and try to make our our board's books that started on September 2021 magically line up with the phony books that the district used to send to the state. So that's still a challenge. I'm still sending emails back and forth with the state auditor. We still have that contractor from the Fed, the Epic company, Mary Samar. I had a meeting with or a call with her and a financial expert at Epic last week to re-explain again the nitty-gritty details of our situation and why not only they are having a hard time finding us an accountant, because I've already talked to like 32 of them in Colorado and none of them want anything to do with this. So the health department was hoping that if they run out and get some federal grant money for us and the Fed pays this contractor, that contractor would have better luck going and finding an accountant. But they have to look in Colorado because you have to be registered and licensed to practice accounting in Colorado. And again, I've already talked to the majority of the local government or the CPAs that do local government audits, and they're like, oh, hell no, you need to call the district attorney. This is a criminal matter. So that's where we're stuck with the state. Is the state is expecting us to audit books that we don't have, the books that don't belong to our water district, because the developer still has their other water district. So what they're expecting us to do is not possible. And we don't even have a right to do it if even if we wanted to. We can't just go and grab those books out of a safe deposit box in Wyoming or wherever they are, if they even exist. Doria could have deleted the files or whatever. So we're just stuck. The state says you have to do audits every year, and we're telling them, but that was a different district back then. Completely different people, different ID numbers and everything. So how can you hold us responsible for that? And unfortunately, the way that state law is written doesn't give the state auditor any flexibility. It just says all districts have to report their books no matter what every year. Period. So there is no unless the district had its books stolen or anything. And then if you can't comply with that, the state auditor has two choices. They can force the district into an audit at the taxpayer's expense, or they can just withhold the district's future property tax revenue, which is zero for us. But it also means that if we try to increase taxes above zero, the voters are just going to say no, because we'd be bailing out the developer, as well as the county would be withholding that money from us anyway, because we're not in compliance with the state. So it's just this catch-22. We're chasing our tail, where the state says you have to do this or we're not going to let you borrow money and fix your water system. And we say, but we can't do that. And they're like, well, tough shit.
Right. We're stuck in a rock and a hard place. And they're not even looking at the partners.
Yeah. And that's what's really ticking me off is the health department. First, they were just targeting us as a district, as a community, and saying that this is all your fault. You need to fix this. You need to tell us what you're going to do to fix it, when you're going to fix it, and how much you're going to, or where you're going to get the money. I finally, because with Channel 4 making publicity and everything, we convinced the state to add the developer to the violation, but the state wouldn't take us off of the violation. So now our district and our community and the developer are both jointly being held responsible. But then at the same time, the health department isn't actually making the developer, the other responsible party, do anything, say anything, or pay anything. It's us doing all the talking. It's us doing all the work. It's our money, that our homeowners' money, that we're spending. So I think it's just a big show that the health department is putting on for Channel 4 to make it look like they're holding the developer responsible. Oh yeah, look, it's the developers on the violation, the fingers pointed at them. But then every time we get on one of those status update calls with the health department, the developer never says a single word and the health department never asks them to talk.
Right.
So that's why I called him a lapdog, because there's two violators here, but one's sitting on the health department's lap, the developer, while we're the one getting whipped.
Right. And getting screwed. Or whatever you want to say.
Yep. So I don't know. They're telling us that if we want to keep living here and keep having water, that we have to do something that's impossible.
Right.
And even if we do it, and that's the other thing, is like not only is it impossible, but like the only way to get back in compliance, like the state, like the auditor keeps saying, you just have to get back in compliance. You just have to do this paperwork. They're pushing that on us. They want to grant us exemptions, just like they were doing for the developer. They don't want to look at the numbers. They don't want to know that there was crimes. They don't want to know that we're missing all kinds of money. They're just saying, here, just fill out this quick little form and we won't even ask anymore. But
Yeah,
if
and
I did,
that's
yeah,
not legal, right?
no, all five of us would have to sign off on that and say,
I ain't
yeah,
signing.
yeah, because the 2020 report that Doria created says that they did that no water taps were sold in the year 2020. But Sam bought his for 40,000. I bought mine for 40,000. Randy and Ed bought theirs for 40,000. Travis bought theirs for 40,000. So just
Yep,
people on
Billy
this
Joe,
call,
where
yeah,
Mia's at. Yep.
yeah, just the three of the four board members on this call, and Sam's not here, but if he was, all of us were original buyers of water taps from the district, and none of our
Yep.
money is on Doria's report.
Mine's not either from
Nope,
2018.
or 2017 or 2016 or anything. So that's what we need to fix, and that's what the state's, the auditor's trying to help us cover up.
Yeah,
and
and
and in exchange, the promise that we keep getting from the health department and from the state is, if you just drop this and cover up the missing money, we'll make sure that you get your funding from the health department. But I don't believe that. I think they're trying to get us to cover this up, and then we'll cover it up and we'll be guilty of participating in the cover up. And then what if we don't get the money for the infrastructure?
right. So we're screwed anyways.
Yeah, so I don't see any point in getting back into compliance with the state if the only way to do it is to cover up money, cover up the whole situation in the first place, because that means it can happen again. And that's what
Yep.
I'm so terrified of, is that, okay, what if the health department does give us $5 million to fix the system, and somebody moves or gets sick, or they can't be a board member anymore and a new person wants to be a board member? Randy, what if you had to give the bank account passwords and everything over to somebody you've never met that just moved here yesterday? Would you feel comfortable with that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that. You really don't know, and sometimes the hard part on that, the caveat on that, is that even though you trust them and you've known them for a while, they will still take advantage. So I mean, it's a catch-22 whether they do it today or 3 months down the road or 2 years down the road. I mean,
Yeah,
it can happen at any point in time.
and that's what I'm getting at, is if it does happen again, which the state is, by not going after the crooks, they're broadcasting a message to everyone in Colorado that says, you can move to Prairie View Ranch. You can snag a vacant board seat. They never have enough board members. You can just walk onto the board, log into the bank account, drain the district's bank account. And if you get caught and someone calls the district attorney, they won't prosecute you. That's the message that the state is sending, is that it's already happened once at Prairie View Ranch and we're not going to do anything about it. Which means if it happens again, they're not going to do about it a second time either. So why are we going to cover this up just to make our paperwork clean, so that we can apply for some money to rebuild our infrastructure, just so somebody can do this to us again? And it would be one thing if it did happen again and we could trust that the district attorney would go after the criminal, but we already know that he won't. So that's the big problem. This may happen again in the future, and if it does, we're going to be right back in this whole situation of the health department giving us a violation for a problem that we can't afford to fix.
Right. When it was the developer's fault in the first place.
Yep. So we have to, that's why we've been trying to get onto quality water, because our district is a sitting duck and it always will be. As long as our district has an ID number, it has to turn in paperwork and it has to operate the system and it has to report to the health department. And I just don't see that happening, especially if someone steals our money again 5 years from now.
Right. Shuts the bank account down and hands us a check for $37,000.
Or doesn't hand us a check next time.
Right.
So yeah, it's just the fact that this can and probably will happen again, because the state is telling everybody you can go out there and do this to at Prairie View Ranch and just get away with it.
Or any other development.
Mm-hmm. So I'm standing up, and I told, after the state auditor shit this week or last week, basically got a call from one of the people at the state saying, here's how you get out of this. And I told him, well, that's not legal and it's not going to work anyway. Even if I went along with it, we're still not going to have running water. So I'm not doing it. And at that point, that person emailed us at directors and asked if they could have the name and contact information of the contractor, the federal contractor that we're working with. That made me feel really uncomfortable. That's like the state trying to step in and talk to the company that we hired to help us with this and probably manipulate that company into helping us in the way that we don't want to be helped. So I jumped in front of that. And when the state asked me for their information, I replied to the email and said, I'm copying our contractor so that she's reading everything that you guys are reading. And now I'm saying to both our contractor and to the state auditors, I don't trust the state auditors. I think they're trying to make us do something illegal. I don't feel comfortable with this. I think we need to escalate this to the federal U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Colorado, not the state of Colorado, the District of Colorado. So that email was basically me blowing the whistle and asking our contractor, which we hired, and they have to work for us, not for the state, to help us go over the state's level of authority and say, this is now a federal matter. We need somebody who isn't corrupt in the state of Colorado to come to the state of Colorado and help us. Somebody that has no skin in the game, someone that can't benefit by covering this situation up.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people at the state that should be fired.
Mm-hmm. They helped make this happen. I called them out on it, and instead of helping us fix it, they're either trying to help us cover it up or they're denying that there's even a problem. So at this point, like the state created this problem, they're covering it up, they're making it worse. So how are they going to help us fix it? So I said, hey, contractor, I don't believe anyone within the Colorado government can be trusted to help us solve this problem. We need somebody from the federal.
Yeah, I agree. What happens if we just all walk off the board and say, fuck it? Or, pardon my French.
Yeah,
say screw it.
Nobody knows. You can theorize all kinds of different stuff. There's certain laws that say, if you allow the district to fail, you can be held responsible for that. But we're not allowing it to fail. We've done nothing but try to save it for the last 5 years, while we're shouting from the mountaintops that we're probably not going to be able to save it. So I don't think anyone can ever say that anybody at Prairie View Ranch allowed their district to go down in flames.
Right.
The
We were
developer
put
did.
behind the 8 ball before we even started.
Yeah, we had to become board members just to find out that we were victims of crime. So that's not
big
fair.
crime.
It's like, the health department wasn't making the perpetrators fix the problem. And so we took over and tried to, fix it ourselves. And now the state is just punishing us and making it harder and harder for us to actually try to fix anything. So yeah, if there's no board, I don't, yeah, they can't just force people to be board members. And if all they're going to do is try to force us to do things that are either illegal or just simply are not possible, then what's the point?
Yeah, like we can't come up with a TMF report for 2019 through 2021.
Nope. And as far as the health department, yeah, we bare minimum we need is $8 million and staff that knows how to handle that money and spend it building infrastructure. That just doesn't exist out here in Morgan County. That's just quality water. They know how to build pipes and serve water through them, and they're the only ones.
Right. And they don't want to because we're not part of their club.
Yep.
Obviously, the guy over on H's that has the empty lots for sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the shitty thing is Kent Flager at Quality Water is officially saying we don't have enough capacity in our system to even serve one or maybe two houses at Prairie View Ranch. That's it. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, 50 water taps for sale 2 miles north of Prairie View Ranch.
Oh, is that how many it was? I wasn't sure if it was just 9.
Yeah, I don't know how many
Parcels?
total lots there are, but
Because they only show up to 9
yeah,
on that flyer.
my point is Kent is saying we don't have any water for anybody out in the Hoyt area. And then 10 minutes later, he's like, well, except for these 10 lots and those
Right.
3 lots and those 2 lots and these 9 lots.
Right. And all the new Meadow Park or whatever that's called over there off M.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we pay all these taxes, road and bridge and to Fort Morgan, but yet Fort Morgan won't help us at all. Mosquito spraying. Do you ever see them out here spraying our mosquitoes? Oh, heck no.
Yeah, that's on our taxes. It's the Wiggins Pest Control, and they're supposed to come out here spray for insects, weeds, goat heads, noxious or invasive species, and that's on Prairie View Ranch's taxes. But they've never ever come out here and sprayed for weeds.
No, and they really need to because those cockleburs are bad over there on the other side of down the hill from Matt Conkey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I saw them last year and they're terrible. And that's a noxious weed. And we can't even get the partners to come out and mow their damn lots. And that's why all of us are dealing with all these tumbleweeds. They're terrible.
Yeah. Somebody was out here a couple of days ago mowing the empty lot. Or go ahead, Mia.
That's what I was just about to say. Somebody was down here on the other side of us mowing, and that's all that I've seen. Like, they haven't come up here, nothing. So I don't know if that was somebody private that they hired somebody to take care of that lot or what,
Yep.
but I was very shocked. I have a picture of it too.
Yeah, I was shocked
Yeah,
too. That's
they
the
did
day
it
I
on the
waved at
other.
you guys.
They did it on the other side of Daryl's house.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I was pulling in on the west entrance and saw somebody mowing, but they didn't do the whole place, just that chunk, the on the west entrance.
Yeah, makes you wonder why.
Yeah.
Are they against trying to sell their lots?
I
When
don't
they've
know.
been told.
Maybe they'll be back, but Carlos used to do it with a much, much bigger mower, and I couldn't quite tell who was driving that thing.
I don't know. It was an old tractor, a really old tractor.
Yep, I had never seen that one, so I don't know who that was, or if it was the developer or Daryl hiring it. Like, who knows? So I tried to get a look at who was driving it, but they had glasses and a hat and a bandana and everything on, so I have no idea.
Well, I wondered if it was Sam cutting a fire line, but
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, if I
yeah,
could
not
get
just
permission, I'd put my animals out here just to mitigate some kind of fire around our property. But I don't want to get entangled in something that
yeah,
could
that
in
you're
the end
grazing.
and hinder what's going on with everything.
Yeah, that's actually happened before out here. The U.S. Department of Agriculture had to come in and crack the whip a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's bad. Thank God we've got a tractor and a mower and Kevin can come out and make lines around the property. So then that way, if God forbid, if something happens, we're safer.
Yeah,
Right. Well, and that
mine's
wasn't. Go
mine's a
ahead.
matchbox waiting to go. Travis is
Oh
gonna
well.
come over next weekend and mow, but right now, yeah, like my whole house is completely surrounded with tumbleweeds, pretty much.
Well, we got neighbors that got stacks and stacks of wood and old branches, and yeah, it's definitely a fire hazard. And I was going to talk to Sam about it on this meeting, but lo and behold, he's not here. So,
Yeah.
and I think, these places are being used as storage lots, and that's not what it's intended for. I think Morgan County Code Enforcement needs to come out here since it's their boilerplate rules.
Nope, they've assigned that to the HOA.
Yeah, and
Doria,
we've seen how far that's going to get us.
yeah, but it's now that Doria and Mary created the HOA, you can't get rid of it, and so that gives the county a legitimate reason to say your HOA rules forbid the junk that you're calling us to complain about. Call your HOA board and make them get rid of the junk.
Yeah, is that going to happen? No.
But according to law, the county says you have an HOA. This is not our responsibility. Even though our zoning regulations say that you can't have junk, so does your HOA rules, and you don't have a board, and that's your community. That's your community's choice. If your community doesn't want an HOA to enforce these rules, then no one will enforce the rules.
Yeah, well, can't we start calling Doria and asking her to come out and mow her properties? And
Not really, because the law says an HOA has to have money to do that stuff. And if
oh,
we're
well,
if we're not paying dues to an HOA, then there is no money to fix the roads and mow the properties. So yeah, the
right.
developers should be mowing their properties, but like that 100 foot wide strip that runs north and south, that's not the developer's property.
Oh,
That's community property. That's what the HOA is supposed to be taking care of.
well, maybe we need to call Mary Bates and Doria too. But
Yeah,
Mary's just
so
going to say she's not on the board. So,
yeah, and none of them have any authority anyway. The way it's supposed to work is the developer starts the HOA because they're the only one that owns any land at the very beginning. And then as homeowners move in, the developers step down from the board and the homeowners replace them. And then they hand everything over. The developer finishes the roads, finishes the water system, gets it all approved by the authorities, and then signs a contract with the HOA that says, okay, the developer has done everything that they promised to do. You've got a brand new water system. You got brand new paved roads. Now your HOA can start collecting a monthly due so that you can keep that stuff going for in the future. And that's perfectly okay. But it's when the developer doesn't build the water infrastructure and doesn't build the roads, but then tries to hand those projects over to the community half finished. So
and
that's
not
where we're at.
even started.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. Is like if the partners had actually gotten the water system approved and paved the roads like they contracted, I would be perfectly happy to charge whatever it costs to run the system and keep the roads maintained. But if the contract says the developer is going to build it and the district is going to maintain, or the community is going to maintain it, and then the developer doesn't build it, and then the developer wants the community to build it and maintain it, no, that can't work. But that's what the
Right.
county and the health department are expecting of us. They're saying, even though you didn't get the infrastructure that the developer was supposed to build for you, you still have to build and pay for it.
And we can't. I know
Yep.
I don't have any extra money laying around to put in it.
So that's where we're finally at now that this last blow up with the OSA, the auditor, has finally happened. I just basically notified the health department there will be no funding for Prairie View Ranch because of the state auditors refusing to do their job and follow their duties under the law. We're doing everything that the health department asked us to do. We're doing everything that we can as far as the following laws that we're supposed to follow. And now it's just Quality Water who's breaking the law and the state auditor who's breaking the law. And if both of them keep breaking the law, we can't get funding and we can't fix the infrastructure, and the health department's still just going to be looking like a moron on Channel 4 for the rest of the time.
Right. Yeah, they're just going to deny everything, even though we have proof.
Yep. So I also applied for some potential $5 million funding from Lauren Boebert's office. There's a House of Representatives funding stream as well. So I wrote them a letter and filled out the forms and sent them our Channel 4 stories and other news and facts and figures and everything. Throw everything in the wallet, see what sticks. If Lauren can hook
Yeah.
us up with 5 million, at least we can get part of the way there.
Right. Yeah, I've been thinking about writing Polis a letter saying you promised us months. It's still looking like years there, buddy, and we can't get on with Quality Water because they're saying no.
Yeah. And
And
that was
how
all
is
just, go ahead.
Yeah, it was all just fluff, but he still said it on TV. So it's like, okay, now we need to hold your feet to the fire, Governor.
But he can just, yeah, he used double speak. You know, Sean Boyd asked him, yeah, basically his answer to her was, if there were crimes committed, then they should be investigated. That's what he said.
Yeah.
What he
And
meant was, we don't think anything's wrong there. It's just the way he said it is, if there were crimes, then they should be investigated. But the part he didn't say was, but there were no crimes, so there's no investigation.
ugh,
Just keep
I
the
just
second
wish,
half of that sentence silence, and it sounds great on Channel 4. He sounds like a hero, but he forgot to say the other part.
right. I don't know. I'm just disillusioned with all of it.
Me too.
I mean, you know, all of our hard work in the last 4.5, almost 5 years has been for nothing, basically,
Yeah,
other than
we're
to pipe black water into our houses that you
yeah,
hope the filter will help. But we've been looking at doing that whole home filter thing.
and it still doesn't. It's still just a temporary fix. Like, you can put in, 10 filters so that you don't have to change them as often, but your service line between the road and your house is still going to clog up, and then you could put 10,000 filters and none of them are even going to get wet
Right,
because the water can't make it from the road to your house.
right,
And that's already happened to number 1. It's already happened to number 2, or sorry, number 4.
right,
It, it's
Ashley.
yeah, and it's happened to number 1 twice.
Yep.
Their line completely plugged up. We had to dig it up, replace it with a brand new pipe, and then 1 year later, that pipe was so full of sludge that water couldn't make it through.
Right,
And eventually, and thankfully, we got the whole pipeline cleaned out to a decent amount. Because that problem, if we hadn't have cleaned out the main line, I guarantee number 1 would be on their 3rd service line by now. Number 4 would probably be having to replace their line, and it would just spread. It starts at the pump house and spreads north, and it spreads east.
right.
And so it hit number 1. It started hitting number 4. It started hitting number 43. Javier, forget their last name.
Isaac's house.
No, not Isaac Ruiz.
Hammer,
The one south of
Hammerillo.
Joyner.
Javier Rivas.
Yeah, Rivas. So Javier had me come over one time, and just large black chunks coming out of his outdoor faucet in the stall areas for his animals, and the pressure was terrible, and that bad pressure, like when the pressure is 70 at the pump house and it's only 30 at his outside faucet, it's because there's 40 psi being lost in the sludge that's plugging up his line. So like, no matter what you do and buy and put inside your house, there's still going to be a problem between the pump house and your house, where that entire thing will eventually just turn solid with sludge.
Right, and I don't see a cistern being worth the money that you'd have to pay for it, because you'd have to have water pumped, hauled out here, and that's expensive.
Yeah, it's cheaper than what we're talking about with the quality project, though. Like if you break it down, yeah, divide the quality project by 48 houses, and it's like $450,000 per house.
Mm.
And then now you look at a cistern, and it's 40,000, 40, let's say $45,000 per house, literally 10 times cheaper.
Right.
But then, yeah, you've got to trust that McDonald Farms is going to have enough water for the next 30 years to haul their extra water out from the Front Range and sell it to us. But there's no guarantee of that either. What if that company goes out of business or gets sued or quits, selling, hauled water, or
Right.
whatever. So
Well,
yeah,
they're talking about putting another reservoir in up near Fort Collins, I think.
yeah,
But
that
it's
doesn't
been in the works for 20 years, and
that doesn't make more water. they can
they can capture more.
yeah, but what if the water doesn't come? How are they going to capture it if it never falls?
Right. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the pooter ain't gonna fill it. It's low in the summertime.
Yeah. And now there's all these new laws being passed by Jared Polis saying districts have to cater to developers. If they want to build 10,000 houses in your district, you cannot say no. All you can do is go apply for loans and build their infrastructure.
Mm.
So yeah, I just don't see a way. I do not see a solution here. Like the state is trying to give us money, but there's just no way for us to have it and spend it and make it actually, matter and end up with it happily ever after. Because quality water, that same law is giving quality water the right to refuse service to us.
Yeah, and that's just ridiculous. We're offering to make them bigger and better, and yet they don't want to do it.
Nope.
I don't know. It's all just disillusioning.
Well, I think we should probably end this
Yep.
board meeting.
Yep. I agree.
All right. Motion to adjourn. Marcy seconded it. Mia,
Yes.
Randy.
I
All right. Meeting adjourned. I'll get Sam to sign the resolution for whatever it's worth.
Yep. All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye, everybody. Have a
Take
good
care,
night.
y'all.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye. Good night.